And
Right.
I think he's a good player, not an outstanding player. And I've always thought that, to be fair. I don't know that he is the guy. I think he might be the guy before the guy. I always feel like he's the Bernardo Silva, not the KDB, and we need to go and sign the
I hear
KDB.
that.
I think he's a left 8. I don't think he's a number 10. So there's a lot that I don't like about his positioning and what Mikel Arteta has done with him. Then I look at the performances he has put in, and it's been great. So I personally do like what I see from Martin Ødegaard as a kind of player for Arsenal in the last few years. However, other than a couple of seasons out of the 4 or 5 that he's had, he's been quite poor, really. I mean, he scored 15 goals in the 22-23 season. Obviously, the next season after that, his assists and goals went down, but he was quite pivotal in certain
He's
games
still
that we did
affecting
play.
the game.
Yeah, of course, for a Premier League. But in the first 2 seasons, I wasn't too sure why we were signing him. I thought he was an okay player, but I thought there was better options. And this season, when I look at the attacking 10s or the attacking 8s in the league, I don't put him anywhere near some of the others. And in overall terms, I would. But in form this season, I don't think he's been better than Bruno Fernandes. I don't think he's been better than Joe Linton or Bruno Guimaraes. I don't think he's been better than Palmer. I don't think he's been better. And Palmer's been rubbish, by the way, in 2025. But his goals and assists leave him dead in the water. I don't think he's been better than Cunha. I don't think he's been better than Eze. I don't think he's been better than Morgan Gibbs-White. I don't think he's been better than Morgan Rogers. I'm like, wow, we're getting towards 8, 9, 10 players there that are better than him. Why is
I know
that?
you named the whole football team. Wenger be
Yeah,
proud of
bro.
them attackers in
So
the starting 11.
I've got to look at it and believe that this guy's better than them, and he's not proving that he is. So I've got problems, brother, if I'm honest, with him at the moment, and I'm struggling to get any form of life from him at the moment. It just seems that his decision making is off. He doesn't look fit enough. I don't know if it's true about him
Confidence looks
getting.
shot as well,
Uh,
man.
yeah, confidence is down. I mean, there's rumours that he's still getting pain injections in his foot to get him
He
through
must
games.
be. I have to
Yeah,
find some
well, a lot
excuses.
of
He
people are
must be.
saying. A lot of people are saying it. A lot of people are saying he needs he needs another operation in the summer,
I
which is
wouldn't
like,
be
wow.
surprised.
So something's not right with him. I will say this: there's 2 things I'll say. One, I want to see him 100% fit next season, and look at him then. No more excuses. No more he's not fit. No more he's not well. He's had a baby. All this crap. All that needs to go out the window for me, right? That needs to happen. The other thing that needs to happen is we need to buy a centre forward. And if we buy that striker and he's still not performing and he's still not providing goals and assists, then we can have a discussion. So that's where I'm at next season with him. He gets the season for me next season to prove he is a top quality player. And if he isn't, maybe we can have that discussion.
I mean, I'm with you in the sense of obviously, I, I I don't like to. I'm not saying Dan or anyone's turning on players, but at the end of the day, this is football. Innit? I believe if you play well, praise. If you're in a bad moment, you get support. But we highlight the obvious criticisms, right? So I'm not saying like I'm not one of them guys. I can hear the logic and the rhetoric around getting rid of the captaincy. I personally wouldn't because Arteta still wants him to be the captain. If he still stinks up the place and his captaincy's gone, then what? And I also don't quite agree with you take the captain's armband away from him and he suddenly, like all the pressure's lifted. You play for Arsenal, there's pressure. You're one of the key players. You're one of the attacking players. It's still going to happen, right? Do you feel like we're going to have to monitor his situation? Now, I only say that because obviously Bert has walked in. You've got to evolve as a team in it. This team, come the summer, they would have been together, the vast majority of them, about 4 years. They're going into a fourth kind of season. So as you know yourself, people at the start of our title campaign, like what 2022, 23, Tierney was a starting left back. There's been a lot of evolution, and you mentioned Martinelli. Obviously, if Martinelli doesn't kick on with the wages he's on, you're looking at are you going to be a squad player or you're going to be moved on. Now, Odegaard's our captain. He's probably been the worst of the starting midfield 3. He's on big money. If he has another season like this, do you think Bert will be looking at, oh, you know what, it's nothing personal, it's just business. Those resources could go elsewhere. And I do agree with what you said in that we're in a difficult situation in that we don't have anyone else in our squad that can do what Odegaard does, clearly off the ball. I do think Wanyeri can play that role on the ball, but off it, he needs to improve. Other than that, you might be looking at a Marino there or a Kai Havertz, etc. Like, where would you be at with that?
The
It's a techie
midfield
one, man.
needs some surgery, don't it? Let's just
Mad
be real.
surgery.
The midfield needs mad surgery. I actually think it's been one of our weakest departments. And it's weird to say that off the back of the Real Madrid game. Because that was one of the games where it was outstanding. But I do feel we've been quite weak in midfield this season. I think Thomas Partey's been outstanding. I don't
Quality.
think Declan Rice has been consistent, but over the last month, he's been outstanding. Odegaard's had a bad year. Look, what I would like to see happen, personally, if Zubimendi is coming in, is I think we need to look at a box-to-box midfielder and an accretive midfielder on top of Rice and Odegaard so that we actually have some strength in depth. Because right now, I'm not sure if he trusts Ethan to back up Odegaard. I'm not sure if he sees Marino as a backup to Rice. And I don't know with bringing Zubimendi in where he sees Partey and Rice's future. So it's all a bit of a mess right now. What I would like to see happen is that window to shut and we go, oh my God, look at this. We've got 2 6s, we've got 2 8s, we've got 2 10s. This is incredible. I don't know that we're going to get that. If we bring in Zubimendi and we keep Thomas Partey and sell Jorginho, we've got Zubimendi, Rice and Partey that can all play in the 6. Rice that can play in the box-to-box, Marino that can play in the box-to-box, and then Ødegaard and Nwaneri. I don't know that that is, out of the 3, the position that we need to strengthen most. I think if it was me...
It'd be a luxury, innit?
It would be like a luxury. Now, Zubimendi would be a good signing if we were to remove players from this side. But if you look at everybody staying, Jorginho going, Zubimendi comes in, but we haven't actually strengthened either of the other 2 positions. We're still using Marino and Nwaneri to back up Rice and Odegaard. Is that good enough? Or is it time for us to go and get a proper box-to-box midfielder and a proper attacking midfielder and have Rice and Odegaard really fight for their position and fight to keep their position, which I think they would probably do. But it's great to have that backup, right? I don't really want to be seeing Fabio Vieira, Emil Smith-Rowe and Nwaneri all trying to, kind of get into Ødegaard's position. I think we might need more than that. And Nwaneri might even be cover for Saka next season.
I think that's his short-term future, if I'm honest, like that little right wing kind of pocket.
Yeah, I think so. Look, if I'm brutally honest with you, if I said to you now, who's the best number 6 at the club, I'd say Thomas Partey. And I love Rice in the 6, but Thomas Partey is brilliant. If I said to you, who's the best box-to-box midfielder at the club, I'd probably say Lewis Skelly.
I hear that. I'd have went Rice, but I hear that.
Rice is a proper box-to-box. I think Rice can do that and has shown against Madrid and PSV and Man United that he can do that role. But he's also shown in other games he can't do that role. In the number 10 role, I still don't think Ødegaard is a number 10. I think our best number 10 is probably Ethan. So when I look now and I think, Raw, where are you in terms of what can you do? I think Ethan's a 10 or a winger. I think Ødegaard's an 8, but he's playing in the 10. I think Rice is a 6, but he's playing in the 8. So there's only really Thomas Partey that's playing in the right position. So unless we change our...
Careful, PSG, second leg, he might play right back, man. Don't talk into existence. Never know.
So I think when you look at our midfield trio, I think they can play in those positions. Are they natural to them? They've not showed me that personally. If we change to a double pivot and play Partey, Rice and Odegaard in the 10, or Partey, Rice and another number 10, maybe we can have that conversation about where people are. But I think we're trying to force people at the moment into where they believe they should play, when I think naturally Ødegaard is a Bernardo and we need a 10 like KDB. Rice is a 6, but, Partey's there and maybe we use Partey as backup and we play Rice in the 6. I think there's a lot of question marks over our midfield and he's got to get the balance right. And for me, I think the midfield absolutely has to be looked at in the summer. Big time.
I think you're bang on the money. I think, every area of our squad, I think most Arsenal fans, definitely before a ball was kicked this season, I don't know where they're at now with everything that's been at hand, but the defensive unit, we'd say we can kind of live comfortably there. As we both said earlier, maybe there's some chopping and changing. We'll get onto it, but we hear Partey, new deal. I'm cool with keeping Partey. We all want to keep him. Rice, keep doing what you're doing. Odegaard's there. We do need, you can make a case of, I would like 2 central midfielders at minimum, but who would that be? Would it be an 8 and a 6? Would it be 2 6s? Would it be an 8? Would it be a 10 and an 8? And all of those kind of things. So it's a bit of a techie one. You've said it a couple of times, yeah, and I agree with it, but why don't you think Odegaard plays organically in the 8, like off that kind of left-hand side? I'm not saying I want this, but before the Crystal Palace game, Mikel Arteta said Declan Rice can play in all 3 midfield positions. Now, I'm not saying I want to see Rice play as a 10, but I assume he meant 10, 8 and a 6, or you could mean even 4. But why don't you think he maybe not necessarily put Rice as a 10, but move Rice further forward and put Odegaard in that little pocket off the left with Lewis Skelly doing that inverted stuff? Why don't you think he plays as an 8? Surely a new role might help him, per se.
So I don't think we can put Rice any further forward, if I'm honest. because I think it totally takes away his attributes defensively, and I think they're outstanding.
Mm.
I think Declan Rice is at best a box-to-box. He's not an attacking midfielder. I don't like him as a Gerrard or a Lampard. I think Declan Rice is definitely more of a Patrick Vieira or Roy Keane or Yaya Toure.
Petite and that.
Yeah, Martin Ødegaard for me is a very good. He's very good at joining the dots, I suppose, is the best way to say it. I don't think he's a guy. He's never been a goal scoring midfielder other than once where he got 15 goals, which was an anomaly. All three of our front four getting a 15 each was just ridiculous.
What a year that was, man.
Unbelievable year. So he's never been, if you check his stats, he's never been a goal scoring midfielder. He hasn't actually been as creative as what some people think. So I think he is actually a perfect number 8 because his stats will probably be quite similar to a Bernardo, to be fair, who's scored goals and assisted goals. But actually, when you look at it, most of the goals that he did score was when he was playing off of the wide areas. When he's in that central role, he's joining the dots and he's allowing Foden, KDB and Haaland to score the goals. I think that's where he is. I think that's what he should be. And maybe that will improve his game. It might take a little bit of pressure off of him as well, because the minute that we're not scoring goals, he's the one we're looking at. Why aren't you assisting? Why aren't you providing? Why aren't you creating? I don't know that he is, if I'm honest. I don't think he's anywhere near the level of some of the other attacking midfielders Arsenal have had. And I think that's just...
Fans tried to fight me when I said he's nowhere near Ozil creative-wise. And everybody knows Dan will back it up. I love Martin Ødegaard, but I couldn't believe the rhetoric with that.
I love Martin Ødegaard. My problem with him is he's nowhere near the level of Mesut Ozil. He's nowhere near the level of Santi Cazorla. He's nowhere near the
level of his previous self.
He's nowhere near the level of Fabregas. He's nowhere near the level of Paul Merson. When I was growing up watching Mercy, he was unreal. He was the guy that was creating all of our scoring all of our goals. But people might be too young to remember that. He is not one of the best. He wouldn't even get in the top 5 at the top attacking midfielders in Arsenal's history. Like, let's just be real.
And that's no slight on him. We're a big club. That's just the reality of life.
We need to be in reality of it. A lot of Arsenal fans are saying, like, what are you talking about? He's one of the best great midfielders I've ever seen. That's because you haven't seen the history of the club. You've just watched the last 5 years and thought,
and they'll turn on him next year's season and then flip-flop. Yeah, that's how football is.
100%. If we was to go and get, let's say, Florian Wirtz, who looks like he's on his way to either City, Madrid or Bayern. Let's say we get him. I don't think we will, but let's say we get him. He goes into the 10, Ødegaard into the 8, and Rice in the 6. I think we've got a great midfield. That's how quickly it can happen. You don't have to get rid of all 3 of them and buy 3 new players. Yeah, we need 3 players.
Change and rejig.
They could be backup players. So if you go and get a 6 like Zubamendi, you go and get attacking mid. Let's say we get Reinders, who would be my number 1 from AC Milan, and then you go and get Florian Wirtz. Then all of a sudden we've got an unbelievable midfielders because we've got Rice and Zubamendi in the 6, we've got Reinders and Ødegaard in the 8, and we've got Florian Wirtz and in the 10 and Ødegaard that can play there. We've still got Havertz, we've still got Ethan Nwaneri. Like, let's be real, we've actually got some good players there. That's where I'm at. But a lot of people will disagree, and Mikel Arteta would disagree, because our midfield next season will be Zubamendi, Rice and Ødegaard. And then the backup will be Partey, who I think will stay on a 1 year. And then we'll have Marino to back up Rice and Ethan to back up Ødegaard. That's what I think it will be, bruv.
I think I'm going to second that. I think that's what it would be. I feel Odegaard's a peculiar situation. I echo everything Dan said, which, putting it simply, he just needs to step up. Yeah, you know, you might need surgery. Ankle's still not really there. I do cut you a bit of that tax. I do think Mikel Arteta off his own back has to evolve the system. You know, yeah, we've got 100 goals in all comps and stuff, but I think our biggest struggles are we can move it from, well, we messed up against Palace, but from Raya into midfield and to get into just in and around the edge of the opponent's box. I think we're somewhat superb at that, innit, give or take. Once we get to that final third, and like they say, the hardest thing is to do is score goals. I think that's where we have a bit of a roadblock. We all know deep blocks, low blocks, we're in kind of trouble. Whether that's moving the ball faster, whether that's players in the pockets, whether that's stretching systems, whether that's finding a plan B. I'm not Mikel Arteta. I don't have my coaching badges to his level. You know, he needs to find that. And I do think there's a bit of a attacking tax I throw on everyone, even Bukayo Saka, as crazy as that is to say, in it, he's still finding a way. And I do think Odegaard's role in our system is very, very complicated. Like, he's got far too much to do, if I'm completely honest with you. And I understand that. But then at the same time, I do think in the last 2 or so games, the bar's been on the floor. He's been doing a bit better. But I just think he needs to get back to it. And I think anyone who thinks we just get a Gyökeres, a Nico Williams, a Zubamendi or Wirtz, like you mentioned, and we're just automatically a better team, I think you're smoking. I think, naturally, of course, we are a better team because we've got quality players. But I think you're bugging out. I think there's stuff Arteta needs to do to evolve the team. I think Berta's got a lot to do. I think these players have got to want to get better, which I'm not accusing them of not doing. I don't think Odegaard's happy, but there's just so many ingredients. And I do think what you're alluding to is bang on the money. Like, we focus on Nico Williams and left wing and strikers and whatnot, and maybe even defenders more in recent weeks. But midfield is a crucial area. If Rice is going to keep playing as 8, I've got no issues. But you need that long-term partner, regardless of what's happening with Thomas Partey. So we have to see. I mean, we've already indirectly spoken about it. Our last 9 games haven't been nice. That's also something we need to improve next season, holding on to leads for winning positions. Before we talk about transfer news, I want to talk about the players that actually are at the club. Yep. Now, you would have seen against Crystal Palace, Mikel Merino and Benjamin White weren't in the squad. What does that make you feel going into the PSG game? Is it mind games from the manager? Do you think they were just a bit of a doubt and they're not involved? If they're not there, where are we at, man? What's everything PSG, man? It's kind of scary.
Yeah, well, I thought they must have both got a knock, but from what I was hearing, they're both rested for the PSG game. Now, I don't know if that means Ben White's going to play at right back, Timber left back, and we try and put Lewis Skelly in the middle and go Marino up top, which would potentially be harsh on Trossard, but I wouldn't mind that happening.
I'd go Marino up top, man.
Yeah, I want Marino up top, if I'm honest. The other thing that he could do, of course, is play Trossard up top, Marino in midfield, and keep everything else the same. I think if it was Jorginho fit, he'd just be coming in and everything else would remain the same. But now that he's out, you know what I'm saying? Another one out. Now we're going to be sitting there thinking, what do we do? Partey out. I think Rice plays 6. Marino goes in midfield. Trossard through the middle. Lewis Skelly left back. What could happen is you could have Ben White and Timber at full back, and Lewis Skelly goes in the middle. You could have Kieran Tierney at left back, and Lewis Skelly goes in the middle. But really, I think the Marino and White resting at Palace, I don't think they're both out. I think they'll be back for PSG. Whether White starts, I don't know. I think Marino starts. I think Marino starts. I just don't know where. I don't know where. I don't know if he plays in midfield or if he plays in up top. I want him up top, DG. I've got to be honest.
Same. But, he ain't got nothing else, so he has to play midfield.
Yeah, I mean, look, against Ipswich and Palace, he did a couple of things which was quite interesting, Mikel, to be fair to him, in his defence. He looked and had a stint with Lewis Skelly in midfield. He started with Marino in midfield. He brought on started Ben White at right back, brought on Kieran Tierney, started with Zinchenko. He kind of gave everybody a little bit of a game just in case they were needed. So he's done the right thing in keeping them fit and rotating. I just don't know where his head's at with this one. I don't know if he thought Lewis Skelly was playing there well enough to go for a stint against PSG. Might be a bit of a deep end, although I believe that he's good enough for it. Kieran Tierney at left back would be my choice if Lewis Skelly was in there, but maybe he's going to put Timber at left back and Ben White, who started well at Ipswich. There's a lot of options that he's got now, just with one player being out and suspended. There's actually a lot of things he can do. None of them, though, I would say are that risk averse. I think all of them have got a element of risk to it. Marino in midfield is not the same as up top. Trossard through the centre means trying to put the balls into the box is not quite the same.
You're not getting no change in that regard.
Yeah, aerial ability, but also the link-up play from Marino is very good up top. Lewis Skelly coming into midfield. What happens at left back? Kieran Tierney is not a risk for me because I think he's great defensively, but he hasn't played an amazing amount of football. There's a lot of risks that you can do with it. So I don't think he'll make that many risks. I think what he'll do is he'll drop Rice deep and then put Marino in the 8. Because when in the summer we bought them, that was the trio I think he wanted to go with because I think he assumed Partey would have injury problems. Because Partey's been consistently good and not injured, that's allowed Marino to then be a bit more of a kind of surplus to requirements player, a bit of a squad player. I think he'll play Rice, Marino and Ødegaard and Trossard through the middle.
I'm happy I'm not Mikel Arteta, if I'm honest with you, because what the hell do you do? Because obviously PSG versus Arsenal, it's a fantastic spectacle considering the contexts of both teams in the semi-finals and how Luis Enrique and Arteta managed. And also we played them in the Champions League before. I think it will be a fairly open game and one of those where, you know, like how now I think it will be an open game and entertaining for the neutrals on one hand. But then on the other hand, I look at, you know, if you were to say Manchester City, Arsenal, like a full strength Arsenal or Pep Guardiola against Arteta, if that was the trailer of the movie and what you normally see when these teams play each other, with exception to us battering them 5-1, it's not really the most entertaining games. It's kind of a stalemate. There's not too much in it. A part of me feels that could be the case. Now, for me, in an ideal world, Partey doesn't get that yellow card, but I'm putting Marino up front. Jorginho comes in. I hope it's a lot of mind games from the manager in relation to what he's doing. For me, though, I would like to see the first option you said with Lewis Skelly in midfield, but then I think there means too many moving parts because you're going to have to move Rice to the right-hand side. Personally, I don't think you'd play Tierney in that regards. I think you'd bet on someone like Zinchenko just to keep the inverted thing. And with the greatest of respect to the informed Kivior and actually Zinni, who's done okay when he's come in, if you're PSG, you fancy that on the counter-attack. How bullish are you with the chances with our chances of the PSG tie? Like, do you think it's decided at home and away? Like, what is everything PSG for you?
Okay, so I think the similar scenario needs to be the Real Madrid games. I think that needs to happen again. I think we need to be at least 2 goals up in the first leg for us to have a comfortable day in Paris. I don't think it's going to be comfortable across either legs, but I think for the tie to be comfortable, we need to be winning 2-0, 3-0 like we were. I feel like the team is better. PSG as a team. I think Real Madrid had more individuals. I don't think they're playing as a team this season, Real Madrid. So I think they don't have the Vinny Juniors and the Mbappes and the Bellinghams, etc. But as a team, I think PSG are just so well drilled. I think Luis Enrique's really shown how much of an improvement.
Another madman.
Yeah, I mean, when we played them, they had the same team. People think it was a different PSG. It was a different PSG, but it was the same players because the only players they didn't have was Kvaratskhelia, then Bellingham.